Here's what Malcolm X said about these white, woke liberals, the kind of people that are in Hollywood that oh so feel your pain. The worst enemy that the Negro have is this white man that runs around here drooling at the mouth, professing to love Negroes and calling himself a liberal. And it is following these white liberals that have perpetuated problems that Negroes have. If the Negro wasn't taken, tricked, or deceived by the white liberal, then Negroes would get together and solve our own problems. I only cite these things to show you that in America, the history of the white liberal has been nothing but a series of trickery designed to make Negroes think that the white liberal was going to solve our problems. Our problems will never be solved by the white man, end of quote. And speaking of woke white Hollywood liberals, I wrote a column about Anne Hathaway, the actress, who complained about racism against black people when two sisters were attacked by a deranged white man on a subway in Oakland. Here's what Hathaway said. Wilson's murder is unspeakable and must not be met with silence. She was a black woman and was murdered in cold blood by a white man. White people, including me, including you, must take into the marrow of our privileged bones the truth that all black people fear for their lives daily in America and have done so for generations. We must ask our white selves, how decent are we really? Not in our intent, but in our actions, in our lack of action, end of quote. Taken into the marrows of our bones, hey, the dude was mentally unstable. He was crazy. Anne Hathaway is not helping. You really want to talk about black, white, homicide and crime? Do you really want to do that? Let's do that. In my article about her, I inform Hathaway that hate crimes represent a tiny fraction of 1% of all crimes committed. As for offenders, blacks are overrepresented. In 2016, blacks at 13% of the population committed 26.1% of hate crimes. Non-Hispanic whites at over 60% of the population committed 46.3% of hate crimes. And Ms. Hathaway, what about black, white, homicides? Most homicides are same-race homicides, but in 2015, there were 729 black, white, or white-black homicides. Blacks at 13% of the population committed 500 homicides against whites. Whites at 61% of the population committed 229 homicides against blacks. So blacks at 13% of the population committed twice as many homicides against whites as whites committed against blacks. What about violent non-homicide felonies? Well, in 2018, there were 593,598 violent interracial victimizations, excluding homicide. We're talking about attempted homicide, manslaughter, rape, and assault with a weapon. Committed by blacks against whites, 537,204, or approximately 90%. Committed by whites against blacks, 56,394, less than 10%. So, Ms. Hathaway, knock it off. Your heart's in the right place, but you're making things worse. It is not true that black people are being hunted down by white people. In fact, a young black man is 9 times more likely to be a victim of a homicide than a young white man, and almost always that young black victim of a homicide is killed by another young black man. Have you said a word about that? You're making things worse. So as I mentioned, I put all this in the column. I hope Anne Hathaway saw it. I don't know whether or not it'll make any difference, but she's making things worse. And for 4 years, media Dems have pounded and pounded and pounded on Donald Trump. And now because your guy, Joe Biden, won, everything is back to normal. Au contraire, mon frère. It's going to be a long 4 years for you too. And